elite innovation will crush your competition. We're talking about little things, but let's say like the highest level of changing in processes, changing in how people do things. If you can figure that out, you can deliver and execute on that.
That's lottery.
That's it.
Right?
It's
You're
a
winning
lottery.
You may have heard the phrase innovate or die, which can be a daunting proposition for any business, large, small, anywhere in between. But we need not despair if we only understand what innovation is and how innovation is manifested in organizational contexts. I've invited innovation experts back to the show, Sam and Travis, to co-host this highly relevant Business Monday topic to give us the tools we need to thrive as business leaders. I can't wait for you to listen in. I'm Dr. Nate Salah, and this is a call to leadership. One reason people go into business is because they want to make a difference. They want to bring something to the marketplace that's new.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all of us can agree that we came into the business world as far as entrepreneurs because we thought we could affect change. And I've said this many times, if we don't need change, we don't need leaders, right? And leadership is about change, progress. Tell me what you think. Let's just kick this off about this statement that Steve Jobs made long ago. If Apple is going to win, it's going to win on innovation. What does that mean to you? I mean, is innovation... Because, and let me preface it and step back a couple notches. People think innovation has to be like world changing,
Right.
But innovation, it's just an idea. It can be as small and incremental as, wow, you know what? Let's change the packaging. It could be going to Mars and anywhere in between.
I think innovation separates you from your competition.
Correct.
Period. Whether that's branding or ideas or, you create something that changes how we do things, it separates you from everyone else. That's why it's difficult to innovate. And it's not, people can innovate, but to have like impactful innovation that changes how we do things is to why you have the Musks and the Bezos and the Jobs. Those are the guys who change how we, now, like you said, innovation could be, the change of packaging or how you do things, and that's all going to have a direct catalyst to growth and hopefully a better idea or a better business or whatever it shall be. But I think that innovation is difficult, but it's also when done properly would change how you're perceived and how well you do.
Well, let's go back to when you started your cell phone stores.
Okay.
Were you thinking innovation, doing it differently?
Yes.
Standing out in the crowd?
Yeah. So initially, because everybody's selling the same thing, so it's like, okay, well, we all have the same product.
It's a commodity.
Right. So it's presentation. Do my stores look better than everyone else's stores? Do my employees look better than everyone else's employees? Do my packaging, everything from that employee's dress code to the packaging on my walls, were they all uniform? Were they stocked? Where we, was our sales process the best sales process? Were we talking to people when they walked in right away? So that was how I separated myself from the rest, right? So plus, I think that, your business is a representation of yourself, and you want the best representation of yourself because that's your vision. So I'm sure Travis and you'd say the same thing, that when you felt like you weren't delivering effectively that customer experience and your vision of what you're, like my cell phone stores, right? Which sounds very like cell phone stores, very like, oh, cell phone stores are everywhere, but no, this was like my life.
Well, you got to go back 20 years too. I mean,
right.
20 years ago, right?
It was
there weren't
innovative.
cell phones
Yeah, it was.
right.
It was an innovation.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Correct.
So like, if that employee did not deliver the experience that I felt like measured up to my vision and what I wanted to deliver, I took that seriously. If I walked into a store, Travis would say the same thing. Stuff was on the floor, employees out of dress code, customers not being serviced properly, just the displays in the window were promotions were wrong, or, you know, we just seen that. It was just like, ding, ding, this is wrong, this is wrong. I mean, you know, so to innovate, I would say what I did was to create a brand within multiple. So everyone had the same commodity, but how I separated myself was building a brand that people recognized different, that stood out from everyone else. So that was my logos, my colors, my product presentation, my customer service, all those things all fed into that innovation that separated me from my competition, and why I was in business to this day, and 95% are not. Now, is that, you know, has that changed? Is my vision the same? No, I've diversified. I've gone in different things. I'm doing different things, but still a part of, you know, my overall vision. That's why I have it, right? But I still hold my employees to that level. Like, if I walk into a store and it's not the way it should be, you know, I'm very passionate with my team to fix it. And that's all part of, you know, making sure my vision for my company is being delivered properly by the leadership and people that work for me.
Yeah, I don't know why somebody would start a business to say, hey, I'm going to do it exactly the same way as this guy.
I was thinking the same exact thing. Like, here's my vision. My vision is we're going to do it just like they do it.
Right. It makes no sense. Right. So yes, I think that innovation is key to entrepreneurship. But I also think that when people hear the word innovation, they think, how am I going to create an iPhone? Right?
Because it seems like innovation, this word is like,
it's ethereal. It's like that huge, it's disruptive. And it's not necessarily the case. You don't need to, in fact, it's almost never the case. Yeah.
99.99% of the time, it's never the case. And I would challenge you, like, right? Like, somebody has a business and you think you can do just a little bit better. That's innovation.
A process you create.
A process. I'm just going to treat my customers
I did it today.
a little bit differently.
I did it this week.
I mean, I think everybody innovates, but again, that word has lost its meaning over the years, because if it's not this, you know, I'm disrupting a industry, then that's the only way to innovate. No, innovating is you're gonna greet your customers better. You're going to provide better customer service.
Start doing DocuSign. I mean, geez, just us doing DocuSign,
changing your logo,
right? Like, I'm going to do
changing
things,
your branding.
But I don't know of anybody successful who looked at an industry and said, I'm going to do it like they do it.
Yeah.
Because why would a customer come buy from you? You know what I mean? Right. So I think inevitably, if you're starting a business, you think you can do it better than what's out there and provide a better experience or a better product or whatever. And if you can invent the iPhone, great, right? But like, the chances of that are zero,
right?
You know, realistically.
Yeah.
So like, how can you just make your four walls, or whatever industry you're in, how can you just make it a little bit better? Like, half an inch is movement, right? Like,
it's funny you bring that up, because I when I worked on my MBA, I thought, okay, this was really expensive, and what I gained out of it were 3 words: do it better.
Do it better.
Literally an entire master's degree in business administration. Now I'm
right.
tongue in cheek, right? Because I teach MBA students, and there's a lot to learn. But if you look at the overarching goal, that was the takeaway, right? And it's like, okay, well, how can I stand out in the crowd? And it doesn't have to be world changer or world altering. Like you said, Tim, I love that it's like an extension of your own ideals, your own personality. Like, and then you got to know yourself. Like, how am I different? Like, I mean, you were so different in the cell phone. You were cell phone Sam, right?
So so you can have, so like within, I feel like, you know, our HPJ, right?
Which is high performance.
Everything's innovation.
Car business.
Right. So we're doing things that are the first to do.
You are innovating.
Like, I'm innovating every day. We're innovating every day.
I mean, that's big. But I think that you were innovative just when you had a mall kiosk and you said, hey, we want to greet the customers within 3 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, right? Like, that was innovative.
Doing it better.
Doing it better.
Or even at HBJ, when you started, you're like, why did you want it? You mean, you weren't thinking, well, we're going to put the first, manual transmission in a GT500, right? At the time when you started, you were thinking, we love cars. We love how we can make cars super cool and fast, and we think we can do it in a way that is representative of a better experience for our customers. Let's go have some fun.
Do it better. We're going to innovate.
Yeah. And it wasn't faster. It's actually not even better, but it's just different.
Yeah.
So that's but you do it one time. Like we put, when the 2020 came out, we put twin turbos on the first one ever, completely changing the way the Force, going to twin turbos from supercharger to twin turbos is wild on a new platform on a car like that. So why though, right? Why you did it? We did it. And then what did that create? It created more people watching, more people following, more people interested in what we're doing, which in turn will have a ripple effect with all aspects of your business. So in any kind of business, if you do something different, something that your competitors aren't doing, which is something you should strive to do as an entrepreneur, is how are you going to do things differently? And I think that it's a lot harder in a traditional business, like a cell phone business, right? They're everywhere. How are you going to do it differently, right? But when you're in like a completely like niche market, like performance, or a niche market like something else, you might look at the ROI on something like that and say it's not there in the first one you do,
right? But
it's there from the ripple effects from doing something that different and that wild, right? So you can do, I think that innovation, if you can pull it off, Musk level, changing the way something's done, if you can think about that and deliver on it, that's obviously the lottery. I think
it's a lottery.
It's a lottery.
It's a lightning strike.
And that's actually what Bezos said. He said Amazon won the lottery.
Yeah.
And for the few companies, the handful of companies out of the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of them, that's fantastic. But for the overwhelming majority of people, innovation looks different. Mm-hmm. It looks like, well, first of all, it's true. It doesn't have to look like something that's daunting. It doesn't have to look like something that's overwhelming.
It may not have a direct revenue benefit.
Not necessarily like immediate.
Yeah, that's
right?
what I mean.
Yeah. But even the recognition that you got, let's just use that as an example from the manual transmission that you're working on for the GT500, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got innovation happening in your organization based on your desire to not only stand out in the crowd, but because your passion for what you do. And I think that's a good place to start with like innovation is like, what do I truly, like where am I passionate about?
You can simplify it though. How can I do it differently?
Yeah, as I was going to say.
That's what you got to ask yourself.
Literally look at your business and say, where is the 1 yard I can do better, right? Like where's the inch I can grow better, right? Maybe it's shaving a few seconds off of checking out a customer, right? Like it's the smallest little things. And I think people get so trapped in the mindset, especially today, where it's like, oh, it's got to be massive. It's got to change the world. Like change the world a quarter inch at a time. You know what I mean? Like change your world, your four walls a little bit better, right?
Yeah. I think if you had like 3 grocery stores right here and they're all like within a block of each other, each one of them is competing.
Correct.
They all have the same groceries. So you can either compete multiple ways. Price, maybe one thing, right? But then go beyond that. So you might say, well, I can't really differentiate myself. We're all just kind of grocery stores. But what can you change?
Change the way the customer feels when they come in your store.
Exactly.
You know the customer's name.
Perfect example. And that actually happens to me. Like and I don't know if it happens to you guys too, but like I have a preferred grocer. And there's a grocery store I prefer to go locally. And it's because of the way I feel in the store. The shelves just look a little bit better. The way the layout is, I enjoy it. Even where the carts are placed, the kind of carts they have.
Yeah, I was going to say placement too of your products and stuff.
And then you walk in the same one, right? Like let's say you go into a Walgreens. Walgreens cracks me up with this. And I legitimately, people for Christmas and stuff buy me Walgreens gift cards. It's probably my favorite store in the whole wide world.
I love Walgreens. I go to Walgreens all the time.
I'm in Walgreens 5 days a week for just the randomest stuff, right? But I go into the Walgreens that's right down the street from my house. If I go to a Walgreens that is 3 miles from me And it is a completely different, everything is different. The different way you walk in the door, different layout,
The
different
managers
place.
have different control, probably.
I'm miserable. You know what I
Because
mean?
you
I'm
don't
like,
know where you're
I don't know where I'm
comfortable.
going. Like, this is not my store. You know what I mean? Like, this is my brand, but it's not my store. But like, anybody in a business can innovate every single day.
And
But
if you're not, you're dying.
Yeah, if you're not, you're going to die.
Well,
right?
that's the next
100%.
question.
Yeah.
Is
Evolve or die.
is it innovate and die? I mean, do we?
Yes.
Do we?
Yes.
Do we?
Yes.
I think the answer is unequivocally yes.
Yes.
And it's not only us that say that; it's proven in the marketplace. You've got companies like a Woolworth or a Kodak, or just go down the list that are bigger
my
companies.
goodness.
That
Yeah.
I mean, and look at
Sears. Yeah.
yeah. I
Sears,
mean,
what
yeah,
are all the, like,
literally.
staple stores that
Right.
were just grown up
Yeah.
that you were just always knew were there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't you used to work at Circuit City?
You sure did. They
Where
didn't
service
evolve
is
either.
state of the art.
Yeah,
I mean, here's the way I look at it. If you're not going to innovate, somebody is.
Right.
Somebody's going to innovate. Doesn't mean we have to get caught up in this, oh my God, I got to change the world. I have to disrupt my industry. It's just, you need to do a little bit better every single day. And it can be the most minute things. But if we're not trying to get better, we're stagnant. And you can only be stagnant for so long before you start to fall behind, and then you die. Right? I mean,
Yeah, I
that's-
mean,
that's
business
just the way the
isn't
world
going
is.
to be like, entrepreneurship is so difficult, and there is no, the room for error when you have stiff competition in whatever industry you're in is low, and you have to, coming from the tech industry, me and you, and Nate, we change was like expected.
Mhm.
We
90 days.
90 days, like, 2-year, business model window, 2 to 3 years, that's just tech. That's just, we know,
Right.
but we're constantly having to change. I mean, you'd sell one product, 55 dealers sold the same product, but you wanted to do it better. How would you do that? You had a company culture that was sales driven, that was rewarding. And we did that differently than the other 59 guys. And we did it way better than they did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our leadership and everything. So you can be innovative in, a forest of everyone like you, and you could separate yourself. It's just, you got to get down to the nitty details.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even have to be
Yeah.
in tech. I mean, I think about even accounting and tax, right? You think how much innovation is really necessary. I know it's like everybody's like, oh, I don't want to talk about taxes,
No, I'm
right?
just joking.
But
I
it's
was,
it's true. You think, well, there can't be much innovation in such a bureaucratic industry. But the truth is, yes, there is. In fact, years ago, I would go to the tax conferences, and some of my colleagues, they would not be electronically filing returns. They'd still be mailing them. Like, what are you not e-filing for? Oh, that's all for the birds. I'm like, no, it's new. It's the way it should be. It's moving forward. It's progressing. And customers want that. They want easier. They want more secure. And then comes the new technology age where people are more remote. So we got on the bandwagon of the remote calling in and the secure docu-signing and then all that in the server environment and whatnot. And then the pandemic comes. And of course, then nobody's going anywhere.
Right.
But my colleagues who are still doing it the old way, they're not getting any clients because they didn't change. They didn't innovate. And now we're probably like 60-40 remote and DocuSign versus the way it used to be. And had we not pivoted and made that change in a very bureaucratic industry, we'd be
60% less overall sales.
60%.
Yeah.
It's huge.
That's going out of business.
That's innovate or die.
Right.
yeah.
And the shift is so minimal. I mean, it was so minimal. And actually, it's easier. Like, it's easier to do business that way.
Amazon, I think, is the ultimate example of innovation that annihilated everyone else or all their competition who didn't innovate.
Mm-hmm.
So how long did it take for Walmart to focus on Walmart.com, Target to focus on Target.com?
Oh, yeah.
You go into Best Buy now, they don't have anything. Like, a lot of what you want is not on the shelf. They go online and order it through our website.
And I think they're also like stocking for Amazon now.
Yeah. Again, innovation. That's I mean, can't beat them, join them, right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I think that, look what Amazon did, man. I mean, we don't go anywhere anymore to buy anything. The vast majority of people, malls are not even anything anymore. Yeah. Like it's so could malls have been more innovative to kind of survive? Could Circuit City been more innovative to survive? Best Buy's obviously had challenges. So elite innovation will crush your competition. Absolutely. Not even we're talking about little things, but let's say like the highest level of changing in processes, changing in how people do things. If you can figure that out, it's going to be difficult. You can deliver and execute on that.
That's lottery.
That's it.
Right?
You're winning
lottery. But I think people can do the small things too in their industry to just move it forward. And like you said, like it's small changes over time. When you look back 5 years later, it's significant. You've completely changed how you do business, but it didn't feel like that because you just were on the cutting edge of DocuSign.
Right.
Which today you're like, who doesn't DocuSign? Right. But like when you did it, like it was like, oh, whoa, I can just sign this on my phone with my finger, like crazy.
And it was my realtor that I think I was refinancing at one of my rental properties, and I was like, oh, this is so much easier. We need to do this at our office. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's part of innovation. Somebody might be thinking right now, well, I don't even know where to begin. And I hear what you're saying. You guys, it makes total sense. I know I need to do it, but where do I begin? And I think one of the answers, I'd love to hear what you have to say, is just like what I said with the realtor. Look outside of your purview of your organization, even your industry, and start to see what others are doing that you can pull into your realm and add a value add, a differentiation strategy. Mm-hmm. Not only that, but also just might make your job a little easier.
I'm going to tell you right now, when I am looking at a company if a company calls me and they want my services from consulting, right? One of the first things that I do is I just go spend a couple days in that company following frontline employees to figure out where can I create a little bit of efficiencies, right? And it may be 2 minutes here or 30 seconds here or 3 minutes here or 40, right? But over the course of a couple weeks, right? Like I've saved this person a couple hours, right? Like that couple hours, all of a sudden you're talking about less employees, right? Like that's less overhead I have to pay because I've become more efficient. And so nothing that I suggest is earth-shattering. You know what I mean? Like it's not earth-shattering. It's the most mundane process. How can we just get a little bit faster, a little bit better, a little bit easier, right? But those little small changes add up. And over the course, like you said, over the course of a year, you're talking about hundreds of hours that are saved, which is directly a major impact on the bottom line.
Yeah.
Most people in business will try to say, oh, I can be a little bit cheaper, right? Like they go into a price war with somebody, right? And that's fine. Like you can win for an amount of time, right? Like it's, hey, can I basically outlive my competitor at this price? You know what I mean? But after a while, right, like you can't cut. Like there's nowhere to cut. And so I think in my mind, innovation is always efficiencies within your organization, right? And then once you've bled that all the way out, right, then it's like, okay, how can I market myself better? Or how can I make the experience that the customer has just a little bit better, right? Like go to Nordstrom. Why do people go to Nordstrom over going to Macy's, right?
100. I could come up with,
because of how you feel
when you go in,
when you walk in the door. You know what I mean?
Macy's feels like a just wholesale clothing store with stuff everywhere, piled up everywhere, just junk.
Same
everywhere.
Clothes, mostly, right? I mean, let's just the same brands, same stuff, but the layout's different. People ask for your first name. You know what I mean? Like you
notice that though because you're background.
I'm a retailer.
You're a retail guy.
But if you ask my wife, who isn't a retailer, right, which store would you rather walk into, right? Macy's or Nordstrom? She's going to say Nordstrom, and she might not really even understand why she's saying Nordstrom, right? Like she won't know like the details like you and I do because we're retailers and we're like, okay, we look at this. But it's how she feels. Yeah. She feels happier buying for there.
And that feeling has a direct relationship with revenue.
Absolutely.
And margins for that matter, right?
Absolutely.
You can, I mean, Nordstrom's is more expensive than Macy's.
Yeah.
Apple is more expensive than Samsung, right? In general.
Not these days.
Not
though.
these days,
They're
right? I know
starting-
there's
they're
some
starting to
Samsungs.
change. Yeah, they're starting to change a
Yeah,
little bit.
because maybe if Apple's going to win, it's going to win with innovation is something that maybe Apple needs to start hearing again.
Absolutely.
They need to read this book by Steve Jobs.
Yeah, I mean,
Get some ideas there.
Right.
I think the saving grace of Apple is their the simplicity of their operating system, and that's the only thing that's kept them.
And the
The only reason why
ecosystem.
the only reason I'm still there is because I don't want to have to learn something new.
The ecosystem. But that was part of the innovation
Yeah, well,
that
I mean,
Steve Jobs
That was
created.
innovative. And that was what, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
right? I mean, so you can make these innovations, and I think you said something important about the ripple effect, right? Like small thing, ripple effect. It also can happen in the negative, right? Like you do something, you jump on a bandwagon too quick, you change something in a negative way, and that also has a ripple effect that 6 months from now, right, you can be in a total different scenario than what you were.
It's a good example. That's Disney right now because they're facing some trouble in this incremental change as far as like, you know, the political aspect of it and how they're approaching, you know, some of their new films that are coming out. And I think they're trying to do the right thing, but the market isn't receiving it as well as they had hoped. And also they're feeling backlashes from the political, you know, from Florida, you know, to be specific, right? So there's some pitfalls as well if you're not approaching innovation in a way that is market receptive. Even if there are those in your industry or even in your company who say, hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
It can be a challenge.
Absolutely. It can be detrimental.
It could be a detrimental challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a detrimental challenge, especially if you lose touch with your base.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so key, right? When you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to innovate, you have to know your customer, right? You have to know who you're selling to. You have to know who your core audience is, your core purchaser is, and you're trying to make their experience better. You're not necessarily trying to translate your feelings to that customer, right? But it's how do we make it a better experience for the consumer at the end of the day?
I'm glad you brought that up because the customer is the hero. Make the customer the hero, not you in your organization, right? Because it's their experience that matters most. And because the customer only is going to do business with you if you know what they want and need, if you meet those needs, and if you stand out in the crowd. And so it sounds pretty straightforward.
It's business 101. Literally, right? Like introductory to business, right? Introductory to capitalism, right? Like,
there you go.
find what somebody wants, give it to them at a price that they find it, right? And I think in our current culture, right? And I'm not going to use woke culture. I'm not going to use it in a negative connotation or a positive connotation, right? I think that businesses, right? Some businesses are on a very slippery slope, and you can talk about Disney. You can take it to. I've read so many things lately about Chipotle, right? With union, they had a store that was unionizing, and they didn't like that, so they closed the store down, right? Starbucks is doing the same thing right now, right? They're closing stores that are trying to unionize, right? And I think, right, like there can be a backlash there, right? Like there's a large pro-union, you know, people in this country who want to shop at union places, and there are people who are like, oh, you know what, I'm against unions, and so you have to be cautious because when you pick a side, you are picking a side, you know, and there is a certain amount of your population that is going to like that. There's another part of your population that isn't going to like that, and if you don't know your customer, right, you shouldn't pick sides.
Yeah, and I think back to Jobs where he said, you know, people vote with their wallets.
Yeah.
They want to pick. And there's so much competition that it's so easy to lose a customer because you may have misjudged or maybe even misspoken or misaligned how you perceive what the market needs and what you actually delivered to it.
And people have a lot of choices.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of choices out there right now. But there's also, that's also, I think for entrepreneurs, right? Like, because there are so many choices, and I think that consumers are looking, right? They want to do business with people who they
value what they value.
They value what they value, right? So I think that right now there is a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs to understand what's missing in the market and to go out there. Because the thing about entrepreneurs is we're nimble, right? We can make these changes quickly, right? We're not a large, Fortune 50 company with all this bureaucracy and, it takes us, we're going to change in 2024, right? Like here's our plan to change. No, we wake up one day and we say, you know what? This isn't working, right? Like I see an opportunity. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to make that change. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it happen. You change right now, And I think that, being an entrepreneur right now, you have to know this is my market. This is my target market. This is who's going to buy my product. I want to innovate any way possible to make it a better environment for my consumer, that my consumer feels good, because that's who you're going to buy from.
And be clear in that. Like, back to Bezos, he made the statement that the Amazon consumer, he knows the Amazon consumer well enough to know that they will never want any of their products slower or more expensive. So the flip of that is we are going to make sure that we will get it to you faster and cheaper. And that's our 20-year march, right? And it's like, so there's such clarity in that, right? And that's what you're seeing Amazon doing. And guess what it's doing? I mean, even more market share. I can't believe how many times that I've gone to a site and saw a product price, and then I've gone to Amazon, I bought it on Amazon. It's like, well, I get the shipping. It's all standardized. Right. I know what I'm getting. And if I want to return it, I mean, it's as easy as possible to do business with them. And that tiny bit of innovation, especially when it's like, you can have your product now this afternoon because we've got a warehouse up the street from your house.
Like my wife and I will be like, I ordered this morning and it's here. You know what I mean?
Nuts.
Like,
I know.
It is insane to me, but like,
it's innovation.
But it's right back to what he said, right?
Absolutely,
it's back to the incremental innovation that the leader set forth based on knowing what my customer wants and needs. And it's not like we're, all about Amazon, right? I mean, there's some problems with Amazon as well because, I mean, I've talked with Amazon employees in the warehouse and I know that there's some things that Amazon needs to fix about that, as well as, I mean, they've done a great job of monopolizing, sort of making the mall of the internet, and they can't get, in trouble for that because of the way they've gotten third-party retailers. But we have issues now with other businesses struggling too. But we don't sell, we don't sell, ice anymore, other than little bags at the gas station because we've got refrigerators. Industries die, things change, and then we have to adapt.
Right. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's a ripple effect of innovation, People, depends on what side of it you're on,
And it can be really exciting, like Travis said. I mean, as entrepreneurs, we are nimble. We can wake up the next day and assess, like, because we're on ground level. We can actually communicate with our customer that day and say, you know what? Here's what I'm going to deliver for you because this is what you said you needed more of in a new way. And make that happen. You have it on the front lines, I'm sure, every day.
Every day.
Well, here's a novel idea, right? Like you've got a business right now. Ask your customers, what can I do better? Like legitimately ask them. I mean, if I walked into Walgreens, right, or put whatever store in there, and somebody said, hey, can I have a minute of your time? I just want to ask what we can do better. I'm absolutely going to give that feedback. You know what I mean? And I think that, it's the old story, right? Like you ask 10 people, 4 are going to say yes, 4 are going to say no, right? Automatically. And you're really asking the 2 people who actually make a decision. But I think like if you're sitting there as an entrepreneur, you're like, oh, man, this makes a lot of sense, but I have no idea where to start. Ask your consumer, what could I do better for you?
What's really I like about that is that it rejects this notion, and you've heard the Henry Ford, if I would have asked more people what they wanted more of, and it would be faster horses, because he was disrupting. We have to look at it and from that context, but we're not talking about disruptive innovation, not asking them what they want because they don't know. It's asking what they want more of because we're looking at a feedback loop on how we can create a better experience, right? Because some people fall in line and say, well, I'm not going to ask my customer because,
they don't know what they want.
Yeah, they don't know what they want, right? No, absolutely not.
That was actually the old way to do sales. Yeah. You were dictating what they wanted. That's how you would teach people how to sell. You were the professional.
But we know what they want. We just don't know how. we deliver the product or the service. We know what they want, but it's a matter of improving that relationship, that experience. I have a student who was struggling with retention, with client retention, right? I'm like, you gotta find out what's missing in this relationship, right? And if you're savvy enough, you should already know in some ways.
You know, usually instinctually,
right.
Probably
Right.
But then it comes down to, hey, you know, where is it that, I mean, and you'd be surprised how many, if you just ask a group of people in your as far as customers wise, and not only that, ask your employees. If you've got people working for you, you know, have real conversations and say, hey, what are you hearing on the front lines, right? Where are you struggling? Where are they struggling? And how can we create process improvements? How can we create relationship improvements? How can we innovate?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not too difficult to have those conversations. And that's to cost us nothing but a little bit of time, but really it's not a cost at all. It's an investment.
Agree.
As business owners. Yeah.
I agree with that.
So as we close, do you think Apple's going to win?
Not on the current
loaded
trajectory.
question.
So I will say this. Let me take it first. They will win as long as the innovative competitors like Samsung and LG, which they haven't been able to do, to far innovate what they've already made, right? So the ecosystem of Apple is what I believe keeps Apple ahead and why mass users want to use iPhones over everything else. Because this with an Android is just even makes me uneasy.
Well, I brought both of my, for our YouTube watchers or TikTok watchers, I brought, you can see now, our podcast listeners, you can't see my Apple iPad and my, what's that thing called? Surface Pro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the difference is Apple has created a brand that you want to be a part of and you want to have all their products. Samsung has not, in my opinion, right? It has not created the brand image that, I mean, let's
or
just be honest.
Microsoft for that
Apple
matter.
started out as like, it was almost like a status deal. Like remember, like you had an iPhone, or it was like having remember people who had Macs back in the day before you had Macs? Yeah. I had a BlackBerry Pearl when the iPhone came out. You know what I mean? Like that was like Mac users were like a segment of people, and they were like cult following, and the iPhone was like, oh, like this was like a status thing to have this thing.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
But they created that brand and created brand loyalty from their customers. I'm very brand loyal to Apple. Right. You know what I mean?
Which was a Tiffany's move, by the way. So Jobs would hang out in front of Tiffany's with his crew as they were trying to figure out, like, how has this become a lifestyle brand that has commanded 30 to 40% higher margins for a lot of the stuff that maybe you can buy somewhere else.
That blue box, man. That blue box. But here's what I'm going to say. Apple's going to die. Microsoft is going to die. Right? Like all these companies will die. And I know people are going to be like, oh my God, there's no way. I guarantee you if you went back to 1950 and you said Sears is going to die, people would be like, no way. Woolworths are going to die. I eat lunch there every day. Like that's the only place I go.
Kmart. I remember Kmart's were everywhere.
But eventually, right, there's going to be another company that's going to come along that's going to innovate, and they're going to do it a little bit better. And there will be the fanboys like me and Sam who hold on, right, to the very end. But eventually we're going to be like, this is so much easier.
There'll be a new Apple.
Remember when?
There'll be a new Apple.
There'll be a new company does it better.
And Amazon will die. In fact, I think
Bezos said himself.
Like
he said Amazon will die. And it's like, whoa. I mean, for the CEO and the founder of that company to say that, it certainly is really humbling.
It's humbling. Yeah. Everything's going to die. Right? Like, and I don't want to be nihilist, right? But like, everything will die.
But something is born.
You know what I mean? Something better will come. And so, you know, whatever company you have, whatever business you're running right now, take comfort in the fact that one day it's going to die. You know what I mean? But also take comfort in the fact that you can change it, you can tweak it and let it live on as long as it possibly can. But at the end of the day, man, like all these brands will be gone and there'll be new brands, there'll be new businesses and new companies and new Bezos and new, right? Like, there's going to be new guys. Yeah. And hopefully we're talking to one of them right now.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That's a good place to stop. Thanks for being my co-hosts, guys. You guys are amazing.
Thanks for having us.